first day of summer for us, and while the meteorological summer begins on June 1st, it's nice to celebrate our longest day of the year for the Northern Hemisphere. The May and early June rains have given way to heat, and it's been a little bit drier. Chris, Jeff, and I will talk about some of these changes and what it means for rivers and water resources in the Southeast. Since it is hurricane season, I will be talking a little later about the hurricane forecast and the uncertainty based on some new information that we've gotten. But you will have to wait for that for now, as we have Jeff starting us off talking about our recent precipitation. Take it away, Jeff.
Thanks, Todd. And as we always do, let's look at the past precipitation. And here we see the past 30 days across the Southeast. Lots of reds and purples, meaning lots of rainfall since mid-May. The reds are 5+ inches and the pinks are 10+ inches. So lots of rain, which actually brought a period of unusual widespread flooding late May for the region. This was especially true across the Florida Peninsula. How do these numbers look compared to normal? As you can guess, well above normal by 4+ inches in many locations. Really only one area from Blacksburg there to Raleigh, North Carolina, to Columbia, South Carolina there, that was closer to normal and maybe even slightly below normal. With that being said, this area was also above normal in early to mid-May. Overall, many areas were well above normal in the Southeast, but it was still spotty, as with most convectively driven precipitation. It is heavy and it is scattered as far as coverage. Tropical Storm Alberto in late May also helped bring plenty of moisture to the region. May precipitation was enough for Florida to rank number 1 out of 124 years of record. Other states like Georgia and North Carolina also finished in the top 5. And this has helped stream flow stay high for many areas. Lots of blue dots there indicating much above normal stream flow on area rivers and streams, especially Georgia and Florida. Many of the lakes are high and releases remain ongoing, keeping streams high as well. So any drought conditions from early spring have been zeroed out. Only a very small amount of area there in Mississippi and Alabama with abnormal dryness. So we are a few weeks into the tropical season, and we already saw our first tropical storm in late May affect the Southeast. That was Alberto. Let's take a look back historically at tropical storms in the Atlantic Basin and those that affect the Southeast. And we see last year was a pretty active year in the Atlantic Basin and also for the Southeast. We have had 5 storms affect the Southeast in 2016 and 2017. That's the most activity since the 2004-2005 seasons back-to-back, when we had 7 storms affect the Southeast each of those years. Typically, we see between 1 to 4 storms each year with an average of 2.8. So we have already seen 1 so far, Alberto, so we can hope the rest of the season will be quiet, but Todd will talk more on this shortly. As far as river flood climatology, we are in week 25, and this is typically a quiet period for most of the Southeast. Right now, we have 1 minor river flood ongoing on the lower Savannah River, but most areas, even though stream flows are somewhat high, there's no river flooding. So close to typical conditions right now. Typically, this is the case through the summer, as river flooding is limited and mostly isolated. The exception to the Southeast is central and southern Florida, where we see the convective season generally begins and river flood season has also begun. Between now through September, river flooding can be somewhat common, and this year especially we see stream flows high and we see the areas vulnerable to flooding. The good thing, Todd, is that I looked at a few of the past wet Mays to see if there was any correlation to very wet Mays and a convective feedback into June and July, and saw that, interestingly enough, that past wet Mays actually did not feed back into wet June and July periods. There must be other factors that play a role.
We're beginning the short-term period with an area of low pressure and the associated fronts impacting the area. As the low moves northward and away, the northern portion of the area will still be in the vicinity of the cold front, and the upper level pattern will remain unsettled. During the midterm period, the unsettled weather pattern will transition to a more typical summertime pattern, so we shouldn't expect to see as much in the way of rain. High pressure will build in as we go through the week, though the old front will still provide a focus for afternoon thunderstorms. The 7-day precipitation forecast shows the rainfall maximums in the northern portion of the area near where the fronts were in the short-term period, but also a maximum in the Florida Peninsula associated with persistent summertime thunderstorms. In the long-term period, we're currently expecting above normal precipitation amounts as models are hinting at a return to a more unsettled weather pattern.
Let me start out with the 2018 Atlantic hurricane season outlook from NOAA. As of the publication of this forecast on May 24th, a near normal to above normal hurricane season was forecast. Our long-term trends lean towards above normal. It looked like neutral ENSO conditions, and conditions were looking similar to what we were seeing last year at this time. Now let's jump ahead a month. And as we showed on one of our first slides, there is an El Nino watch being issued by the Climate Prediction Center. If you've listened to our outlooks in the past, we talk about increased chances of hurricanes in a La Nina. But in an El Nino, those chances for an active season diminish. And because our temperatures are warming in the Pacific Ocean, and it looks like we might be in an El Nino by the traditional peak of the hurricane season, that would likely impact those storms by inhibiting development. In addition, another interesting development as we head into summer and continue with our hurricane season, temperatures in the tropical development zone in the Atlantic are below normal. The sea surface in the tropical Atlantic is the coldest on record. Since 1982, we've been taking those records, and about 3 degrees cooler than last year at this time. While 3 degrees may not seem like very much, that's a huge year-to-year difference for the tropical Atlantic historically. While that could change in the coming months, it takes time for that to happen, and it is making an active season look less likely. However, as we have seen in the past, it only takes one storm to bring Category 5 winds and significant rainfall for it to feel like it's been an active season for your particular area. So this is not an invitation to let your guard down in the southeast. It just gives us a little more optimism that we won't see a repeat of last season. Our July temperature outlooks continues our expectation of a better chance for warmer than normal temperatures, with our rainfall chances shifting a little bit to equal chances of above, near, and below normal precipitation during the month. This is a bit of a shift from the rainy forecast we talked about last month. And while the temperature forecast for July through September continues on the warm side, the precipitation forecast only has the mid-Atlantic states expected to be above normal. Again, this is a bit of a shift from the forecast we had last month. For the seasonal forecast from October through December, we will only look at the rainfall, and due to the potential El Nino, it looks like this time could be wetter than normal over much of the southeast. Likely, this would not be attributed to an active tropical season, but more to the onset of an El Nino. More on that as we get closer to that time. And so the bottom line, in the short term, it looks like normal summer rainfall for the southeast, and the tropics look to be quiet for the next at least few weeks, and looks like possibly into July until we get to our next water resources outlook. In the long term, tropical season may end up being a little bit quieter than we originally forecast, and we looks like a normal summer with possibly an active fall as we get into El Nino. Lots of stuff going on, still lots of uncertainty going on there, but we'll try and address some of those questions in our next Water Resources Outlook, which we plan to record on July 19th, 2018. Happy summer to everyone.